Hey, Bills Mafia. We know there's only one topic every day. All Bills, all the time. And now Matt Bove and Sal Capaccio are going really deep, talking Bills all year long, because it's always game day in Buffalo.
Well. Good afternoon, night, morning, Bills Mafia, whenever you're listening. Welcome to the number one seed in the AFC after 2 weeks. Sal Capaccio here, Matt Bove. I mean, Matt, this is only 2 weeks in, but I mean, how cool is that? You wake up and you look, and the Bills are on top of the AFC overall with the actual seeding.
As I was sitting on my couch on Sunday, I was watching the 1 o'clock games, like I'm sure a lot of other, people were doing. And it was like 2 o'clock. And I was like, man, what a difference a week makes. Because at this point, a week ago, the Bills were down 14 points to the Cardinals, and it felt like the sky was falling. And then a week later, they were 2-0. It felt like every other team was very vulnerable. Maybe the Cardinals are really good. So, I think the Bills are in a really good position. And I feel like 8 days after the season actually started, when we're recording this, you got to feel a lot better about the Bills than you did even a week and a half ago.
Yeah, I think that's one of my big takeaways from the weekend, which is, boy, the Cardinals looked really good, and maybe it just made the Bills win over them look that much more impressive. Now, maybe the Rams are just really bad. I think the Cardinals are going to be pretty good this year, and I actually think it's fortunate the Bills got them week one instead of maybe later in the season, as it seems like they might be getting even better as they get things put together.
This is my exact tweet from following the Cardinals game. I just retweeted it, so it's top of mind.
Okay.
This is at 4:41 p.m. I think the Cardinals are going to be a pretty good team. Kyler is legit. The defense isn't good, but there's not many teams in the league that can score 31 points in 32 minutes. And that was in regards to what the Bills did in the second half. I think the Cardinals, because of their offense, are going to be a pretty good team. I agree with you. I think the Bills got them at the perfect time. They also obviously get them at home, which is a huge advantage. I think that is a dynamic offense. I think that's a team that probably wins 9 or 10 games, could absolutely contend. I don't think the division is as strong as it has been in years past. I think the 49ers, without McCaffrey, we saw them lose to the Vikings. I don't think the Seahawks are world beaters. And then obviously the Rams, they just blew the doors off of them. I think they might be a playoff team. And I think that's a nice win for the Bills. And I think as I just watched all those games yesterday, the Bills are still one of the best teams in the NFL. I think that people wrote them off way too quickly.
Okay, so I want to run through a few of these teams too from the weekend that we saw and what your impressions are, because I think you make a really good point there. And something I've said many times going back years, and this is not I don't fault fans for being this way, because when you're a fan, you only have so much time in your life to consume being a fan, and you watch your team and you ride the highs and lows. But I think what does happen sometimes, that I try to remind fans of this, Matt, which is, if you only watch your team and it's about them winning or losing, and then you play fantasy football or you watch highlight shows, your standard of what your team should be is way out of whack. You have to really pay attention to what's happening in the league and around the league to all these other teams, Cincinnati and Baltimore, Kansas City, whatever it is. And then it gets you a much better perspective of who your team actually is. So it's a long way of saying, if you think, okay, well, the Bills, let's hold the horses. It's 2-0, teams that aren't that good. Look around the league. It's not easy to win. Games are tough. And when you can come out 2-0 after 2 weeks against the Miami Dolphins and Arizona Cardinals, have appreciation and respect for it, because that's not happening with a lot of teams. You think the Ravens wouldn't love to be right where the Bills are right now, or the Bengals wouldn't love to be right where the Bills are right now? You have to watch the whole league to get a better perspective of who your team actually is.
And to the point about the Ravens into the Bengals, the Ravens go on the road this week to the Cowboys, who also just got blown out. So you think that they're going to be coming at you, a little bit more seriously. And then the Bengals are at home against the Commanders. They should win that game. But they haven't played each other yet. They've both already got 2 losses, and they're going to have to play each other 2 times. That division always beats up on each other. That's a pretty big-sized hole to try and climb out of for one of those teams, if not both of those teams. I mean, what if the Ravens, right? The Ravens will probably, I have no idea what the line is. There'll probably be a pretty close line between the Ravens and the Cowboys. They're going on the road. What if they lose? What if they're 0-3 going into the game against the Bills on Sunday Night Football? Nobody would have ever imagined that. You would have thought at worst they were going to be 2-1. They lost at home to the Raiders, right? Like there's bad losses. That's a very bad loss. I mean, we could have been talking about the Bills losing at home to the Cardinals last week, but I don't think that would have been nearly as bad of a loss as losing at home to the Raiders. So you just look around the league, and like you said, you hit a bunch of really good points. It's really hard to win. And the Bills did the most valuable thing you can do. On a short week on the road, they got a division win. Those mean more. Now they have extra time to get ready for their third game, and they were going to be favored against the Jags anyway, but now they're on extra rest too. So, and it's at home. Like a lot of things kind of fall in line for them.
I have the lines. Do you want to guess the Ravens Cowboys line?
I would say it's like Ravens -1.5.
It is Cowboys -1. There's one here, Ravens -1. So it looks like it's mostly Cowboys. It's about even because it's kind of gone back and forth here.
Yeah, I mean, given the fact that it's in Dallas, probably give the slight edge. I won't. If I was going to be betting on a game, I would definitely be picking the Ravens. I just don't see a world where they start 0-3.
Well, how about not only them being 0-2, but the Cincinnati Bengals, who actually didn't look too bad playing the Kansas City Chiefs. But now, Matt, the Chiefs, who are 2-0, and they did a nice job to beat the Ravens, and then the Bengals, they're going to be without Isaiah Pacheco, maybe for the season. I mean, it came out from Adam Schefter on Monday that it's an IR stint, at least 4 weeks, more testing to see this could be a very long-term injury for Isaiah Pacheco. That is a huge, significant blow to the Kansas City Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes, actually, it's kind of like the Bills. Bills have won 2 games without, now in game 1, Josh was great, but in overall, it's not like Josh has been unbelievable numbers just lighting up the world. Say they have Patrick Mahomes, yet the Chiefs are 2-0. So they're winning games with running, playing some defense, whatever. But now without Pacheco, that's a huge blow for them.
Yeah, I mean, they're already without Hollywood Brown for probably most of the season.
Good point.
Now they're without Pacheco. And the added layer here, I'm not a legal expert. What if the Rashee Rice suspension happened in the middle of the season? I believe I heard Florio saying on Sunday Night Football or the start of the season that they're going to kind of follow the timeline of when he's due in court, which I believe is like halfway through the season. But what if that suspension happens? And then all of a sudden that team is getting ready for the playoffs. And by that point, Pacheco, I'm sure, will probably be back. But no Rashee Rice, no Hollywood Brown. Travis Kelce has like a couple catches this season. They would be a pretty bare bones crew of skill players. And this was supposed to be the year that they were once again loaded with talent.
All right, let's play truth or lie. All right, I'm going to give you the team and the record. You tell me if it's the truth on who they are or a lie on who they are.
It's a fun game. I like this.
Okay. Ready? Okay. Yeah. Pittsburgh Steelers are 2-0.
Oh, such a lie. Such a lie. And you know the worst thing about the Steelers is they're going to finish the season 9-8, and they'll probably
that's right.
They'll probably be in it until the end. They are just the definition of mediocrity. Like they're just totally fine. Good defense, offense is whatever. Doesn't matter who's playing quarterback. Tomlin's going to get them 8 or 9 wins because every year he's got to finish at least a little bit over 500, and they're just going to be such an unserious team.
Chargers are 2-0.
Sneaky truth.
Okay.
Sneakily. I don't think that they're world beaters, but I think that they've got absolutely a chance of being a wild card team because I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that they split with the Chiefs this year.
I agree with you on the Steelers. And, you know, I'm a big Mike Tomlin guy when it comes to like, hey, he just knows how to coach. There's always a baseline. But I also think there's also a ceiling there where you're exactly right, Matt. That's probably a team that's going to sneak in somehow because that's what they do. But I want to see a little bit more from them. They still won a game. Honestly, the game they won from the Broncos was more about the Broncos making a ton of mistakes than was the Steelers actually beating them. As far as the Chargers, I mean, I don't know what you're supposed to do with them beating the Panthers. Matt, the Panthers might be the worst team I've seen in years in the NFL.
Yeah, definitely. But I think because they have a quarterback, that's why they get the benefit of the doubt. Like between the two teams that you told me, give me the Chargers 10 times out of 10 because I think their quarterback is capable of winning them a game if he needs to. And I don't feel that way about either Russell Wilson or Justin Fields. I would just rather have a team with a great quarterback and a so-so defense than a team with a great defense and a so-so quarterback.
A team that Bills fans are very interested in this year because of their draft pick, the Minnesota Vikings 2-0 after beating the 49ers. Truth or lie?
Somewhat truth. They're going to probably end up being like a 500 football team just because Sam Darnold's playing good football and they've got a lot of talent elsewhere. So I don't think that that's unrealistic to think that they could be a team that's like 9-8 and competing for a playoff spot in the NFC.
They're better with Darnold than they would have been with J.J. McCarthy, I think. And I
Yes.
said that when JJ got hurt. It's unfortunate, of course, but I think they're actually a better team, have a better chance of winning with him. What about what the Saints are doing? Truth or lie? Not just the 2-0, but really outscoring the league, outscoring the world.
Lie, but not like a white lie, right? Like I think that they're going to be a good team, but I don't think they're going to look like one of the best teams in the NFL when we're having this conversation 6 or 7 weeks down the road. Just because, once again, I think the quarterback is fine, maybe even okay, like good, but not much better than that. And that's where, to me, it kind of differentiates if you're a serious contender or if you're just kind of a pretender.
I would pretty much agree with that. I would also go to the other team in that division. The Buccaneers are 2-0. I'm going to say truth the way they're playing. The Buccaneers are playing some defense, and Baker's playing really well. I think the Buccaneers are a pretty good team.
Yeah, I do too. I think Baker's pretty good. I think Baker's above average. I think that when you have Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, you have the pieces that they have, and now the defense is making plays. Like, that's a team that if you're the Bills, you're happy you played them last year at home.
Yeah.
You were able to get a win. That's not a division that I would want to be playing this year, just because the Saints look better than they have in a while. The Bucs look legit. And then I still just don't know about the Falcons. Maybe the Falcons will end up being okay too. We don't know.
This is a great segue you said about playing that division and who they're playing. They do play the Rams. The Rams are 0-2. Truth or lie in the 0-2 record?
It's tough because they're dealing with so many injuries, and it's not just the skill players, right? Now they're without Cooper Kupp for who knows how long. Puka Nacua is on IR, and you've got a bunch of injuries on your line.
That's right.
So to me, I think they will be a much tougher test when the Bills play them in December than they are right now, because I just think that talent will prevail and coaching will prevail. I think it's a little bit too big of a hole to be in that division, but I don't think that they're a pushover by any stretch.
If they get healthier, because if they're not, then you never know. But you're right. You expect them to get healthier, because to me, they're a lie in the fact that don't count them out. Don't think they're like a normal 0-2 team, but they are a truth, which but they deserve to be 0-2 because all the injuries. It's just too tough, right? I mean, but I would tell you this though, Matt. One guy I want to ask you about, and have you watched Tre'Davious White play at all? He's like starting for them, and it just has not gone well.
No, it feels like every time you see him, it's like he's given up a big play, which is really, if you're a Bills fan, I think pretty disheartening, just because you don't want to see that guy who put so much time and effort into his craft start to kind of hit the back end of his career. I think we saw it in the first Sunday Night Football game of the year. We were going back and recording after the game. We were watching the game together, and he got beat on that deep touchdown. I think it was Jameson Williams. And then there were just other moments against the Cardinals where Marvin Harrison Jr. was just kind of torching their secondary. So if he is the lockdown guy, I don't really trust that he's locking down many of the top receivers in the NFL.
If you're watching the video side, I had to move something behind me, so I took myself out. And then I came back, and we're on the opposite sides now, which is totally weird.
That is weird.
So wait, let me do this. Okay,
there we go. But now you got to switch our names.
There we go. Now we just switch our names back, and then we went back. That's all it was. I had some stuff back there. I'm like, but that doesn't look good in the shot. All right. That's a look at around the league, and let's obviously focus on the Buffalo Bills and the task at hand coming up Monday Night Football against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Matt, did you watch any of the Jags-Browns game?
So I was watching Red Zone, so I didn't get to see a ton of it because there wasn't a ton of scoring. It feels like they were in the red zone a lot. They were just kind of settling for field goals. I saw the ending of the game. I thought that if you were a Bills fan watching that game, you wanted the Jags to win. I don't admittedly love the Jags coming into town without a win. I just feel like, there's something about them trying to literally save their season at this point. You start 0-3, that's a really good luck, basically. You start 1-2, it's not great, but I mean, it's no different than being 1-1 and then losing your third game. 0-3 would be bad. So I don't love it. I don't love it from the Bills standpoint.
I agree. I'll add this to it. I watched a lot of the game. I was also watching Red Zone. I was trying to, stay involved with that one as much as possible, kind of following along. But after the game, actually on Monday morning, I went and I watched Doug Peterson's press conference and Trevor Lawrence's press conference after the game. Doug Peterson was so deflated and dejected. It was just, he was really, really just, again, wasn't he upset, like a mad upset, right? Oh my God, what is going on? And then Trevor Lawrence was mad upset. And he was kind of I give him credit. He actually sounded like a leader. He was saying all the right things that all leaders should and kind of calling out his team a little bit. That team is going to have a sense of urgency about them this week, all week at practice. Go watch Peterson, go watch Trevor Lawrence. That's also what gets you a little bit, okay, like the Bills are in for a fight on Monday night.
Yeah, and you've got the added layer of the Gabe Davis storyline and the Mitch Morse storyline. Those, like, now we just watched the Bills cook Jordan Poyer. So it's not like that means a ton, but it means something. You know that those teammates will try and go really hard for the guys that they're lining up next to. Evan Ingram is an interesting layer to watch in this game. He gets hurt pregame with a hamstring injury, gets held out of the game. Will he be available against the Bills? I also believe one of their corners is out and has been out for a little while. One of their better corners, I think it's Armstrong. So they're a little banged up also. Not as banged up as the Bills. That's another thing we got to talk about because we haven't talked since after the last game. So Terrell Bernard, Taron Johnson, Matt Milano. Not the worst case with any of those guys, but still I'm not expecting that we see any of them out on the field on Monday night.
Yeah, I want to get to that in a minute because I have a couple of thoughts on that. I want to go back to the Jags real quick here. At the end of the game, Gabe was coming off and he was limping and it was kind of his knee. He was doing something with his knee. Haven't heard anything yet. I don't know. I hope he's okay. I'd love to see him play in Buffalo. It would be a shame if he wasn't able to do that. But it is something to monitor this week. You're right about Evan Ingram. What a huge, significant blow. I can't imagine. I mean, maybe it's not that bad, but a hamstring injury in pregame warmups keeps you out. Now you play a game 8 days later. That's going to be something tough as well. Here's a question for you. How much stock do you put in? I see this all the time right now with this game. Lots of fans and media talking about the history between these two teams, going back to 2017, the playoff game, the Urban Meyer loss, the London loss. The Bills did have a win in there. Shady McCoy, it was Josh Allen's rookie year, so McCoy was on that team. But remember the throw to Robert Foster, right? Josh Allen's rookie year. The Bills won that one. How much stock do you put in any of this history stuff?
Really quick, I misspoke. It's Tyson Campbell, who's the injured cornerback.
Okay, thank you.
I put stock into it. I definitely put stock into it. I think it's the same thing. I think it's the same thing with the Dolphins and the Bills. When it's just a team that you, for some reason, have had a hard time getting over the hump against. Remember the game, the Urban Meyer game we were just talking about? What did they score? 6 points in that game? It felt like that game just was the weirdest one of the Sean McDermott era, maybe one of the ugliest losses of their entire time here. I don't think that the Bills don't have a chance or anything like that. Like, I still think that they're going to win this game. I just think this is a team with players that have given them a little bit of a hard time. Trevor Lawrence has had some success. I mean, he carved them up on some plays last year. If it wasn't for A.J. Epinesa in that London game, the game would have probably ended a lot sooner, but he made a couple huge plays, forced a turnover, a fumble that led to some points. Most of the Bills' points came right at the end of the game when it was kind of out of reach. I just think they've got some players that present problems for the Bills, one of which being whatever Josh Allen's name is now. I'm not trying to
Joshua Hines Allen.
Joshua Hines Allen. Like that guy has also had success against the Bills. So I don't think it's like a huge factor, but I think it's definitely part of it.
I don't. I dismiss it. I think it's totally different than the Bills and Dolphins. Those are two division teams who see each other twice a year, have the same coaches pretty much. I know there's a little bit of turnover there. Lots of the personnel. This is one game last year where there were some injuries, and a game a couple years before that with a totally different coach. Trevor Lawrence's rookie year, he didn't do much. Travis Etienne wasn't even on that team. I don't put much stock in the playoff game. Was 3 coaches removed for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I don't put much stock in it. I think that, is it like they walk out on the field, you see that logo and like, oh my God, we're playing the Jaguars. I do think there's some of that with the Dolphins and Bills though.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, here's a good way of, this is like a completely sidebar thing, but you know how many fans hate when the Bills wear white jerseys with blue pants?
I know.
Because they associate that with losing. So I don't think it's crazy to associate the Jags with some.
Yeah, they beat the Dolphins 31-10 in those uniforms last week.
I don't think it's crazy to associate the Jags with one of the few teams that this group has had a bit of a hard time beating in games that they should win. They were a big favorite on the road in London last year. They still lose. They were a big favorite when they went and lost to whoever was playing quarterback. Was it because it was Trevor Lawrence, then he got hurt? I don't even remember who came in after that. But it was like Beathard or something. It's a weird team that they have had trouble against.
The injuries you just brought up are concerning for me in this level, okay, which are, yes, Terrell Bernard is a very big player, key player. And of course, that's just his loss is big enough. Where I think that the Jags will look to take advantage of the Bills is coverage at their linebacker spot. The Jags can throw it to Travis Etienne. Now, Ingram, if he plays, that's even a bigger problem. I think the Jags will have a week to prepare. and say, we're going to attack Bale Spector and Dorian Williams in coverage. That's, to me, the biggest kind of offshoot of the injury to Bernard this week. Now, overall, as you said, good news that could have been a lot worse, at least for Terrell Bernard. Maybe he does go on IR. Maybe he misses 4 weeks, but it's not going to be super long-term like Matt Milano. And Taron Johnson didn't go on IR before the Bills played the Dolphins. So that means there's optimism. He'll be back within the next few weeks. We'll see about this week. I don't know. That's the one area that I'm concerned about this week, specifically in the game plan, which is the coverage from the Bills linebackers against the Jags.
Yeah, and I think that because the Bills' strength has proven to be defensively their cornerbacks, right? Russell Douglas, and we don't know about Taron Johnson yet, but Christian Benford, both of those guys have been rock solid. So you look at the Jags and who they've leaned on. Like Brian Thomas Jr. has had a nice start to the season. He had 94 yards the other day, but he's going to be on the boundary. So I feel like you like that matchup if you put Russell Douglas on them. And then you've got guys like Christian Kirk, obviously Evan Ingram. Like Christian Kirk had 3 targets, 1 catch in the last game. ETN only had 3 catches for 6 yards. So I think those guys in the middle of the field, like if it's Gabe and Brian Thomas out wide, I think you like your corners matching up with those guys. It's what can they do in the middle of the field to attack your weaknesses, which right now are their backup linebackers and even safety. And I think that's where Evan Ingram will be a huge factor here. If he's available or if he's 100%, like he might play and he might not be 100%. And then obviously Travis Etienne as well.
One of the big storylines we'll be watching for this week, does Joey Andreessen make his debut in a Buffalo Bills uniform in a regular season game? I mean, you either have to have Andreessen or Eddie Ulofoshio active, Matt. My guess is, just sitting here, and I don't know this, it would be Andreessen because he seems to be the backup middle linebacker, the third guy in line behind Bernard and Spector. So now he becomes the second guy in line. He's been the guy with the green dot in preseason, making the calls. That's not been Eddie Ulofoshio. So, but the Bills could decide maybe Eddie becomes that guy because maybe there's a special teams element they have to consider. One of those guys has to be active pretty much because without Bernard on the field and active, everybody's kind of got to move up a spot.
I think it's Andreessen. I just think Andreessen is a little bit more game ready. I think he's got a little bit more familiarity with running the defense like they've needed. And I do think that he would be closer up on the depth chart than Eddie Ulofoshio would be. So to me, yeah, I think this is the game that Andreessen plays. Honestly, if it wasn't for the weird injuries that would have happened these first couple weeks, like Smoot getting injured late, and then obviously all the other injuries that have happened since, I think that we would have already seen him make his NFL debut. So I do think we will see him. The other weird one here is, do we see Dwayne Smoot now? Like, that's a former Jag. Like, do we see him this week? We still don't really know a ton about his injury status.
We don't, but they never put him on IR, which means they expected him to be back within 4 weeks. This would be the third week. And as you said, he's playing his former team. So it would be really nice to get him. By the way, I mean, they're fine with Kingsley Jonathan or Cameron Klein being elevated, but Dwayne Smoot provides you a lot of flexibility, and you don't want to waste those elevations either. I mean, if you can have him on the field and ready, that's a big part of what the Buffalo Bills want to do. So I'm hoping for Smoot that he is able to play against his former team as well.
Well, let's talk about the guys who we really praised this summer and how they fared so far. We really praised Greg Rousseau. He's been exceptional. We really praised Jamarcus Ingram. Look what he just did in the last game. We've really praised Dwayne Smoot. So maybe he's like unbelievable and the Bills really will get an added jolt. The thing about Smoot is they can do so much with him. They could put him on the outside. They could put him on the inside on obvious passing downs. Right now, Von Miller looks like he's got some serious juice still left. Imagine on an obvious passing down, if you can roll out Greg Rousseau, Dwayne Smoot, Ed Oliver, and Von Miller. If you're the Bills, like, good luck. Someone's getting there. You just got to hold up in coverage for 2.5 seconds. And if you do, I'm pretty confident that one of those guys is going to get to the quarterback and make, things a little bit more chaotic. Now, Trevor Lawrence is mobile. He can move in the pocket. He can run, but he's not Kyler either. So it's not like I think that this is going to be one that's, keeping you up at night, trying to keep him contained.
What do we think happens at safety? Is there any shuffling at all now that Cole Bishop is healthy enough to play and he got a few reps in? Mike Edwards is healthy enough to play and he's been playing some special teams. Although obviously Taylor Rapp's not going anywhere. It's really DeMar Hamlin specific here. DeMar has not played poorly. He's not making plays on the ball. That's not his game. But the Bills secondary overall has played well. Do you see any sort of shift here between from DeMar to one of the others?
When you ask me what do I think is going to happen at safety,
Oh my
you just
God.
set me up so perfectly. I didn't take the bait. I didn't take it.
I'm glad you didn't, because this would have been not the week to do it after
No,
what they've
exactly.
done for 2 weeks.
I think that if there was going to be a change that happens with one of the guys they already have in their locker room, it happens now with extra time, with extra preparation. I don't think we're going to immediately go to Cole Bishop. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think it's going to stay Rapp and DeMar. I do, but I won't be shocked if they do Mike Edwards and Rapp, just because I think that was their plan all along. And I think because of the injuries, because of the short turnaround, the quick week, it was a little unrealistic to get Mike Edwards on the field as much as they would have liked. So that's why I still think it's going to be those two guys, Rapp and Hamlin, but I won't be shocked if they end up but using Edwards more than they've had the last couple weeks.
Yeah, and we'll see against this specific team. Every team's gonna have to have a new game plan and a new way of going about it. All right. Before we step out of here, I did want to circle back real quickly. The two division teams, they are playing Thursday night, the Jets and the Patriots, and we didn't talk about them at all. Jets get a win over the Titans, but man, it was a struggle. The Titans stopped them early on the quarter. The Jets couldn't score for a while, and then all it took was Will Levis handing them the game basically through some decision making. Which, by the way, I tweeted something like, Will Levis is totally 2019 Josh Allen. And like Bills fans just got so mad, like some disrespect to Josh. I was just meaning like how he makes these weird decisions. Like, oh my God, I can't believe you did that. And then he'll have some great laser that he throws, which he did later in the game as well. That's all I meant. Settle down, Bills fans. I know he's not Josh Allen. I get it. You don't have to be so defensive about it. But man, Will Levis makes some really crazy decisions sometimes.
Well, that like lateral was not obviously the exact same scenario, but it felt like the Josh lateral in the Houston playoff.
Yes,
where he just like threw it backwards, and you're like, Josh, what are you doing? Like, you have like a minute and a half left on the clock. You don't need to do that right now. And that Will Levis one was so bad. I get that sometimes the competitors just want to make a play, but you would think he would have been on his P's and Q's considering the pick six he threw the week before that cost them the game against the Bears. I think the Jets are the favorite team here. They should beat the Patriots. I know the Patriots have been really tough. Their defense has looked good. I do think, though, the Jets defense will have a little bit of a get-right game against the Patriots offense, and I'm expecting that they win. But, oh, boy, if you're a Bills fan, root for the Patriots here, because I just don't think that that's a team. They're good. They're better than we thought they would be. That's probably the right way of saying it. They're better than we thought they would be, but I still don't think that they are a legitimate, threat for the division. And now we also don't know what's happening with Miami. Like, are you starting Tyler Huntley? Their next 4 games are not that difficult. They've got a winnable stretch that if they need to play, the next couple weeks without Tua. But, I still, they were losing 31-10 with Tua still in the game before he got injured. So I don't think they're as dominant as maybe some people thought.
We'll see. You're right. They, in case anybody didn't see, they plucked Tyler Snoop Huntley from the Ravens practice squad. I actually thought maybe Mike White was going to be their play from the Bills practice squad, since Mike White actually had practiced and been a part of them. I see a look on your face. What happened now? This is my love-hate relationship when these things happen. I love breaking news to get it from you and get it and see your face. I hate it that it alters everything we're talking about.
Okay, sorry. The Panthers are benching Bryce Young.
Wow, they're terrible.
They are terrible. They are starting Andy Dalton. They are benching Bryce Young this week. Their first overall pick.
Can you imagine if they could have taken CJ Stroud instead of Bryce Young?
And it felt like, I don't know, we don't cover that team. It felt like that's what Frank Reich wanted.
I know.
It felt like he wanted CJ Stroud, and then
I know.
Just maybe the worst trade in NFL history. What they did to get Bryce Young and all of everything that it cost them.
It's amazing. And Bryce Young just hasn't figured it out yet, and they're not good at all. As far as the Patriots are concerned, it is still very, very tough for them to generate a lot through the air. Their team, though, I will say I give respect to Gerard Mayo for understanding who his team is and understanding they have one way they can win right now. That is by trying to play tough defense and running the football. They're very limited. Their margin for error is very thin, but that margin for error came up against the Seahawks. They left a couple of plays out there, and that's all it took, and the Seahawks won in overtime. And that's who the Patriots going to be all year.
Do you know how many rushing attempts they took in this game? I have their box score up in front of me, so it's easy for me to figure out.
40.
36. Ramondre Stevenson had 21. Yeah. Antonio Gibson had 11, and then they had a couple others mixed in there. That's
do you know the rushing attempt number for Josh Jacobs this week?
20 was my guess. 20.
32.
I guess backup quarterback, that
Yes,
does check.
exactly.
Basically what the Patriots are doing is they're operating like they've got a backup quarterback in,
Yes.
even though it is actually their starting quarterback.
And then he was down, I thought, for one play. I'm like, oh my God, here they're gonna have to go to Drake May. That didn't wind up happening. But go ahead. What else?
You know who I was looking, who
Yeah.
might stink? Anthony Richardson might stink. Right?
He's gonna make some wild plays, like but you're right. I don't know about a stink. I don't know about stink. I'm not ready to go there yet. I don't think he's quite what a lot of people thought he'd be right now, 2 weeks into his second year. I would also tell you, can we just slow down in anointing Caleb Williams as a Hall of Famer in his first 2 years? Because this guy comes in, and even I said he's got the best situation ever for a number 1 pick. I ate that. I agreed with that. But man, that being said, it's still not easy on him.
No, it's not. I watched a lot of that game just sitting on my couch, and obviously we don't exactly know what they are trying to accomplish, but they just make things so hard, so much harder than they need to. Like, they just set themselves up on so many 3rd and long situations of just like turning around, handing the ball off for like a 1-yard gain or a loss. The play design with the talent they have just doesn't make much sense. I know the line was giving them some fits, and Will Anderson really took over. My biggest takeaway from that game is that Texans are legit. I think right now the 3 best teams in the AFC, I don't even really think it's that much of a debate, are in any particular order: the Chiefs, the Bills, and the Texans. I think those are the 3 teams that 2 weeks in look the most serious.
You're right. I don't disagree. I will say, though, the Texans should have put the Bears away way earlier than they did in this game.
They should have. They
did not. They left the Bears opening after opening, and the Bears just could not go through the door.
Yeah, well, I think the Bears' defense is better too now. Actually, Tremaine had a couple nice plays too.
He did
in the game. So I agree with you. The fact that they finished with just 19 points was, at home, the way they started was like really underwhelming. But I think that's what makes them a good team, is that on a day when their offense wasn't spectacular, their defense was really good. And I feel like that's usually kind of what the Chiefs have been, right? The Chiefs' defense is now really dominant. And then there's days when they get burned a little bit, but the offense chips in. And that's kind of what the Bills have been like too, where the offense could have a good day and then the defense could have a good day the next week. That's for me, like, we're recording this several days after the game ended. I was just so impressed with what Sean McDermott, Bobby Babich, and the defense was able to pull off. It's just really, when you've got a defense coached by him and you have Josh Allen on the other side, it's usually a pretty good recipe for some success.
All right. So follow us at Sal Sports, at Matt_Bove. I'm at WGR 550 on the radio side. Matt's at WKBW TV Channel 7 on the TV side. We always want you to download, subscribe, throw us nice ratings, reviews, likes, all that kind of stuff on It's Always Game Day in Buffalo, wherever you pod in audio. And I am just a little more than 1,000 subscribers shy of 10,000. Let's get there, okay? Yeah. Want to get 10,000, that on the YouTube side. That's at Sal Sports on YouTube. Let's get Matt and I and me on the YouTube side together here. Over 10,000 subscribers. That would be great. Okay, I did that part. You tell everybody what the Bills' media schedule is this week with a Monday night game coming up.
So the Bills will be back to practice on Wednesday. They had a nice little long break, a mini bye week, as they would call it. They will practice Wednesday. They will practice Thursday. And then they will practice Saturday. So a little bit of a small change to the schedule. I will tell you this, though, Sal. I am not going to be there every day this week. And it's not that I'm skipping work. I will be covering the Buffalo Sabres starting training camp.
Okay.
For a few days. Buffalo Sabres, they also start training camp on Wednesday. A very condensed schedule for them, though, because they leave for Europe in like a week. So they start training camp. They have I think they got a preseason game like Saturday, and then another one on Monday before the Jags game. And then I believe they're on the road to Europe. So a lot happening in Buffalo sports right now.
Did you get your way to Europe for the game too? Are you going to do that?
No, I'm not going to do that. The thing that's tricky about that is just very straightforward. It's the same time as the Texans game.
It is.
So
it's the same weekend, yes.
The Stephon Diggs storyline is just far too juicy and far too interesting for most people. So that is what we will be covering.
We'll be covering this week's game between the Bills and the Jaguars all week long, I should say, here on It's Always Game Day in Buffalo the next time we talk to you. And by the way, make sure you are subscribed, because you're going to be starting to hear us a little bit more frequently with some kind of quick hitters coming your way from Matt and or me. That's on the audio side and usually the video side as well on It's Always Game Day in Buffalo. All right, Matt, get ready for a week filled with getting ready for Monday Night Football.
Let's do it.
For Matt,